my priest nuns after.
I'd like to call to order the Strategic Planning Committee meeting of Tuesday, August 2nd, 2016. If everyone would please rise, we will have an invocation followed by the pledge. The invocation tonight will be led by Councilman Benny Johnson.
Heavenly Father, we ask you for your guidance tonight in the decision-making process that we have for us tonight. We continue to ask your blessings over our law enforcement, fire, EMS people, as well as our military, as they protect us in our day-to-day lives, and that allows us the ability to come here tonight and discuss the business of the people we represent. Bless over us and keep us safe on our way home as well. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Secretary, let the roll show that all members of the committee are present without exception. Item number 3, our public comment period. Anyone wishing to come forward and address this committee tonight, please check in with Jessica, and you'll be given 3 minutes. And
Jessica, do you want to speak?
I see a little laughter, and the camera's sort of panned over there. It doesn't look like anyone's present here this evening. Item number 4, approval of our May 3rd, 2016 strategic planning minutes. Chair will entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Joseph. Any discussion? Any objection? Those minutes are approved. Item number 5, approval of our June 7th strategic planning committee minutes.
Moved. Second.
I have a motion to approve by Councilman Lawler, second by Councilman Dawson. Any discussion? Hearing none, no objection. Those minutes are approved. Item number 6 is approval of our July 5th, 2016 Strategic Planning Committee minutes.
Motion.
Motion to approve by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Joseph. Any discussion? Any objections? Those minutes are approved. Moving right along to item number 7. This is a discussion of a burn ordinance for Ascension Parish. Our discussion will be led after I make a few remarks by Councilman Lawler. This is an item that we've talked about before, and we at the pleasure of this committee, deferred it. That was over 60 days ago. And the last time we left this issue, both Councilman Lawler and Councilman Johnson were tasked with getting with APSO, our fire chiefs and so forth, and having some further discussions. We had back then, and again have tonight, a draft ordinance in our packet. I will just say this in prefacing remarks. It's modeled after the City of Gonzales, which we also have in our packets tonight, their burn ordinance, which is also then modeled pretty much on the state open burn law. The only real major exception, and we discussed it, and I'm sure we'll be discussing it and other things again tonight, to our proposed law compared to what the City of Gonzales has in the state, is the inclusion of a clause, I believe it's right at the beginning of our ordinance, that you would not be allowed to burn if you had less than 1 acre of property, and that's controversial to say the least. So what I'm going to do then is turn it over to Councilman Lawler and Councilman Johnson to tell us what progress has been made on this.
Okay, approximately, say 3 weeks ago, we met with all the fire chiefs who were very gracious to meet with us to review this, to give us their opinions on the proposed law, how it would affect both them and the public. We got to talk about some of the workings of the law, how it's going to work, how it would work in reality, and some of the issues that we have seen in Gonzales, I should say the fire chiefs have seen in Gonzales, and how to make it work better. One of the things that I don't believe, and it's probably due in part to me, is that we haven't got enough input from our sheriff's department, and it's something that I'd like to possibly, after we discuss this some more, defer this once more to get more input from our sheriff's department. But I still think it'd be a good thing to discuss it tonight so we can get some more, I want to say, ideas and the opinions of the council, and I was hoping the public would be here to add some input to this, but maybe this is something that the public does not have enough feelings about or they're concerned with other things at the moment. Benny, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I did make contact with Chief Deputy Weber week before last, or last week, whenever it was, after the meeting we had with the fire department, and got him a copy of it, have a brief discussion with him, and I haven't heard back with him as far as their level of comfort with this as of right now. So I agree with Aaron as far as where we're at with them going to be, or our plan as far as them being enforcement part of it. I think we really need their input in case they have any concerns with this, so we're not revisiting and going back with it. We'd like to get it right the first time before we adopt anything. So I would, I don't know if he's making that as a motion, but I'll second it if he is, or if he's not, I'll make that as a motion. We postpone.
I'm making a motion to defer with the caveat that I'm also asking the public, both for and against, and any ideas that they have for a burn ordinance, to come express those with us at the next strategic planning, if that's when we decide to put this back on the agenda. This is something that I've heard a lot of people talk about, and I was hoping people would be here to discuss it with us, to give us your ideas, to tell us what works, what doesn't work, what your proposals are. Email us if you have to, call us, but I really would like to get some more of the public's input on this. But yes, I'm making a motion to defer this for 30 days until the next strategic planning meeting, with the express hope of getting public input and, on my behalf, meeting with the sheriff's office.
Okay, the chair will recognize the motion to defer, and just ask for clarity. Councilman Lawler, are you asking to defer for 30 days, or deferrals, as you know, need a time frame?
Yes, I'm
To
not
our,
sure if
to our
it's
next,
exactly
better
30
way of
days to the
saying
next
it, yes,
strategic planning meeting.
I think it confuses Jessica, and I apologize for that in the past.
That's easily done.
To say, 30 days, it's better not to say days, but till our next meeting,
Yes.
okay? And that motion has been seconded by Benny Johnson. Any discussion? I believe Councilman Dawson.
Well, thank you. I just have a couple of questions there, and I'd like to get clarified. I see C and D, you have statutory exceptions, and then in D, you have exceptions. Can you help me with the difference between those two?
As far as, do you mean why some are exceptions, one are just statutory? I really can't help you with that. What we did was we used the state law as a basis for this, and this basically mimics the state law and the Gonzales City law. Are there specific issues within there?
Well, I mean, I would like to understand why there's a distinction in the proposal.
I believe I can maybe give some clarity to that. I'm not positive of this, but unfortunately, legal counsel is not here tonight to correct me if I'm wrong. But I'll go on a limb to say statutory exceptions, if you really take a look at them, are things that because they're accepted by state law, we would not have a chance as a local governing authority not to accept them as well. Whereas the other information that's under Councilman Dawson D are things that are more specific to us. But again, I think like Councilman Lawler said, that has pretty much been copied or lifted from the city of Gonzales.
Well, you've got the 1 acre. You got the 1 acre exception in the statutory.
Yeah, and I did notice that, and I'm glad you pointed out. If legal was here, I was going to ask him why it was placed there and not elsewhere in the document. For example, under D, it is there, no doubt. For anybody listening at home on Channel 21, what Mr. Dawson's referring to under statutory exception C, point number 1 is where the language, and I'll read it out so everybody understands, the burning of leaves, grass, twigs, branches, and vines by a private property owner on his own property for non-commercial purposes, which is pretty much all the people in the parish are doing this, provided that the property exceeds, there it is, the 1 acre of land, which, as I indicated in my prefacing remarks, is quite controversial. And let me add, while you're at it, and give you the floor back, Bill. I agree wholeheartedly with what Councilman Lawler just said, and part of that may be my fault. We don't have a big audience here, and there could be other reasons as well. But I advertised it heavily on my website that we were going to discuss this last time, and I got to tell you, it lit up like a Christmas tree. And if I had a nickel for every time someone was either for that clause, but almost pretty much evenly divided, nickel also for everybody that was against the 1 acre situation, I'd be a rich man. So I would hope the public would come in, because if we're gonna have a burden law ordinance, that's a sticking point where we need to be sure that we're going with the right thing there. I can tell you this, O'Neill Parrington told me, again, he's not here, and I don't wanna speak for him. I wish he was here to correct me if I'm wrong. He'll do that regularly. I think everybody's seen that. But the 1 acre got put in there because this pretty much started with Councilman Lawler and I, who are in 2 districts that are very densely populated. Lots of subdivisions, lots very close to each other and so forth. As a result of that density, when people burn, as the chiefs testified last time, the smoke very quickly travels to adjacent neighbors and can be troublesome, to say the least. Health issues, so forth and so on. Damage of people's property, you know, power washing their homes, their swimming pools, so forth. We've discussed all that. So instead of doing, I'd asked for him to take a look at the idea, and he told me he couldn't find any legal precedent for it. And he said it's sticky. I'm not quite sure what he means. A lot of people came to my website, gave me grief about it, to maybe look at, I think like Councilman Joseph's going to do in a minute, you know, geographical areas or districts, so that we would maybe have a clause like that, or not a clause like that, but just in this area, you can't do this burning of the leaves, grass, and twigs because it's too dense, whereas in these other areas, not. The alternative to that was, I was told, leave it up to the property owners associations. And unfortunately, what I did is checked into that, and I don't know about every district, but in D4, there are very few active, unfortunately, property owners associations. A lot of them are when the subdivisions are first developed, but with time, they either become inactive or totally defunct. So that's a serious issue, Bill, and we need to take a look at that, and I would charge both, I guess we'll keep the same subcommittee going, Mr. Lawler, Mr. Johnson, to specifically talk about that with the chiefs and with APSO and so forth. But you had the floor, Mr. Dawson.
Thank you. And I also would like to find out why we need something that's in addition to the state law. Okay, so if this is all, and you know, I'm not going to say I would even support this, you know, even if these were answered, because I see some things in here. Burning of hydrocarbon, you know, these are the kind of exceptions that I see in here. Burning of hydrocarbon products, petroleum, exploration development. You know, exploration development, that has radiation possibilities. Then you got special situations of provable for exemption by the administrative authority. So I guess that would mean that we could approve somebody to go burn explosives and or burning experimental burning for purposes of data gathering. You know, and then you have this general exception, non-recurring unusual circumstances. I mean, this, I don't know. I guess the first, really, I'd like to get answered. If this is proposed, why don't you just reference a state statute? You know, rather than, you know, going through all this repetition. And secondly, you know, I'm not in favor of all these exemptions, and I'm also reluctant to prohibit somebody with 0.99 acres from burning. That's the end.
Okay, thank you, Councilman, and duly noted, and I can't say that I disagree with anything you said, actually. I think, you know, the KISS principle is applicable here if that's the wish of this committee, and also, of course, as everyone realizes, we're just here to make recommendation to the larger body, and I'm sure this will be vetted even further if and when that event actually occurs. So let's keep in mind as you fellas go forward and get more input from the fire chiefs and it looks like we headed that way with a deferral with APSO as well, the 1 acre issue, and maybe get some answers. I would add then legal and get to Councilman Dawson's questions, answers as to, you know, why do we have to have some of these things in here that are exceptions, and, you know, are they necessary and so forth, or would a better approach just to be say we endorse the state law, quote unquote, as is with whatever. I would like to add one more thing of my own, and I only learned about this since the last meeting. Several of the people that were emailing me on the subject regularly were individuals that worked at various petrochemical plants or other large industrial concerns. Some of them actually were indicated they were part of road crews and all, and one of them sent me a link to something called a trench, I believe I have this correct, burner, or maybe a trench blast burner. And I apologize to the committee, I did not bring anything to hand out on that tonight. I probably should have, but since it's being deferred, I will fix that by next time. Basically, it's one of these situations where the contractors will have heavy equipment on site anyway, and when they're clearing out, let's say, a subdivision for several hundred lots that has been approved by this parish, they will just dig a trench with that equipment. And then this machine, well, before that happens, anything that they have cleared in terms of trees and brush and so forth is pushed into that trench. And then this machine hovers over the trench, sits down on it, and seals it off, and then blast type of fire, that's why they call it a trench blast burner, comes in and burns, I think, what I read, something like pretty much 100% is consumed, and it can be just turned back into the soil, the ash, and then what comes up and volatilizes, instead of going into the environment, something like 97% plus is captured, and so no smoke is going anywhere and so forth. And again, one of the real reasons of Bill and everyone to have this ordinance was to keep the folks who are building, it's almost unstoppable, we know that, from, making problems in these areas as we get denser and denser in the districts that we serve with the neighbors. A trench burner may be something we could actually stick in the law. I don't know. I don't know if we can force people to buy things, but maybe we can, maybe we can't. Again, if legal was here, these are some of the questions we could have answered. But so I will charge the two councilmen again when they're talking to APSO, talking to the fire chiefs. Please also, I will send your link, Aaron and Manny, after this meeting shortly, about the trench burner. Ask some questions about can we do something, because that's a big issue, and that might right there take care of the 1 acre problem.
People have to dig a trench in there?
No. What I'm saying is it might take care. Let me rephrase that. Thank you, Bill. It would take care of the problem, I guess, from the standpoint of the developers, which is probably 90% of my problems personally. No, it would not take care of an occasional neighbor, the other 10% or so that burns leaves and is too close in an area anyway. But I'm not, that was not my language. I'm not wedded to that. That's something legal counsel put in there, and it's controversial. So we have a motion on the floor, and I guess we're still in discussion stage.
One other thing real
Further
quick.
discussion, Councilman Johnson.
Point you were talking about earlier about potentially creating some special areas within inside the parish to allow certain things or not allow certain things. I think from an enforcement standpoint of view, that'd be a nightmare.
Yep, that's what I'm hearing.
And that would be something that I don't think anybody would, at least from an enforcement side, whether it be the fire service or the whoever would be enforcing this thing would agree with, because of that nature. Then you're having to go out and decide, okay, where's the boundary line on this thing, and the different things that may present. And so I would be hesitant about creating some kind of special area inside of it or multiple to say, yeah, you can do this type burner here, but not this kind and that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to point that out. So.
Yep, and the chair has appreciation for that as well. That was pointed out by lots of folks on my website, that how would you enforce that? And if it's on a boundary of a district, is it this side and the other side doesn't have that as a rule? And we're not here to make problems for APSO or whoever be doing the enforcement. We're here to try to solve them. So be that as it may, again, I'm not the one that put that language in there. It is in there right now. It's just a proposal, but we need to decide whether we're going to strike it, strike the whole thing, go with the state law, whatever we're going to do. And probably maybe one more go-round is fine, I guess. Any more discussion?
I have one more question.
Councilman Dawson.
Is there a publicly available place that people can review this?
I have placed this ordinance on my website, but it's dated now by the 60 days of the first deferral.
Well, should be. Can we get it put on
we could put it on
Ascension
Channel
Parish
21 maybe, or
website?
On the website.
I was legal.
Well, we're going to have people comment on it. I mean, how are they going to know?
Yeah.
They can go to strategic planning and they can post it under strategic planning for
Yeah,
comment.
there you go.
Yeah, I mean, IT.
On the
can do that.
website,
Yeah, on
right.
the website.
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah.
Okay.
But I just,
that'd be wonderful. And maybe Jessica, if we get any comments between now and the deferral time, in the next 30 days or so, if you'd bring that to the meeting, or put it in our packet so we'd have it ahead of time, we can take a look at what the people have to say. And I'll try to make some summaries on that, because I do plan to do it on my personal website again. hate to open that can of worms because I know it's going to be a lot of, it's amazing how many people seem to be interested in, whether we like it or not, gentlemen, Facebook is where the people do their business, not so much on the Channel 21 website, or as you can see by the empty courtroom tonight here. That is very disappointing. And I don't hesitate to say that, because if we're going to be public servants, the public has to be here. I'm not looking to pick a fight with the public in that regard, but this is clearly an issue, and it's not the first time. I understand this has come, Benny
Been several
and
times.
OJ, who are more senior to me, has served more terms than I have. I'm sure they could speak to that, so far we've never gotten it, and that might be the reason why. But I made this statement last time, I'll make it again. We're not Afghanistan, and I think we do need some sort of a burn ordinance. I'm not sure what form it will take, but I want to still try to respect Councilman Dawson and other people's wishes about it, and certainly we'd like to have his approval and vote if possible. All right, so any more discussion? We have a motion on the floor and second to defer until the next strategic planning meeting to allow all the things that we've discussed here tonight to happen. Any objection? Without objection, the motion passes. Item number 8 is revisions and additions to the Land Development Code on the grass and weed overlay for West Ascension Parish. This is a request put forward by Councilman Oliver Joseph. OJ?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, this overlay, and just to bring up to the council on this, currently we only have a subdivision grass cutting ordinance right now. And in that grass cutting ordinance, we only put a lien on the property once the parish cut it. And it's only documented at the court as part of the record as a lien. This ordinance here is basically to not subsidize, but add an amendment to it to reach out. In my community on the West Bank, I only have one subdivision outside the city limits. And the rest of them are communities there was created, 100 years ago. Lemonville, Smoke Bend, Modest, A-Bend. And they are small knit communities, so the houses are very close. But we don't have an ordinance, so I'm basically requesting this overlay here be added to it for these types of community. And this overlay map identify those areas, and it gives the outline. And the only thing that right now, I have spoken to the sheriff to put it on the tax roll call. As a comment at the bottom of it, the sheriff called me back today, and he wanted to set up the meeting with the assessor office to discuss that. He in favor of it. Other parishes put it on their tax roll and collect it, which is basically what they want to do. But what we're trying to do is just put it on the tax roll, so when anybody pays their taxes, they know the parishes are being the lien, and you owe the parish for cutting grass. You only can cut the grass twice a year in this rural area on this overlay. And so we're just trying to point out that the landowners who get the grass goes in this ordinance and to be enforced, when they pay their taxes, they know their property have been cut by the parish and they owe the parish some money. So I'm asking to basically to extend it for another 30, to the next meeting, to after I have the meeting with the sheriff and the tax assessor to discuss that, to put that in the description, how we gonna lay it on the tax roll. Any question?
I'll second the motion, but I have
Did you
some
make
comments.
that as a form of motion?
Motion, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to also delay or defer this until our next strategic planning meeting by Councilman Joseph, and second by Mr. Dawson. Discussion. Mr. Dawson.
Councilman Joseph, I have a few questions. I mean, I presume that this one sheet is how the code is gonna be revised, is that right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, it says the overlay zone is measured 300 feet from the adjacent right-of-ways were indicated on the official map and 100 feet from existing residential structures. I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, if you're gonna put 100 feet from a structure and 300 feet from a right-of-way, where are you gonna?
No, but if, the way, because we're in a rural area, and if say if you on, I can only use a street, and they may have, your property start there, but you're only looking at the property within 300 feet from the right-of-way of a road or a street, because I might have 7 acres. I'm not requesting you to be, to cut off 7. I'm only
I see.
asking, I'm only asking you in that area where a residential will fit in those measurements.
So it does, I was reading it that it started 300 feet from the adjacent right-of-way, but it's within,
It's measured from.
it just says measured 300
Right,
feet
but that's what it-
from, so
right.
that's where, that comprises it.
That's right, from your right-of-way of the property, of the road, of a parish road, 300 feet off the road.
Okay. Now, it also says, designated as communities by the Ascension Parish Council.
That's right.
Do we actually have those?
Those communities are Lemonville, Aben, that's how they identify. They are
But
identified.
have they been designated by the parish council?
Well, this overlay map gonna do that for us. If you look at the map, and
So shouldn't, you know, in defense of that point, shouldn't that be mentioned in the added item to section 11-100A? In other words, refer to the map to know what a designated
Because
community is.
the way I read it, it would have to be previously designated for it to
Could we,
apply.
could we actually show this map, and maybe Councilman Joseph, could you, point out where the? I think if you, if you just turn.
if
it-
you,
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
you
on
got
the
it.
all
screen
right,
now, so the
but if
audience-
you look at the green area and you see these blue areas, those are the overlay areas. And Modest, if you can look at on the north end of it, you see 2 blue areas. That is heavy and dense area of community. There's not that many people, but the houses are close together. And Bill, I know you know where A-Ben is, right there, and you can see that is also in there.
I mean, I don't have an issue with the concept, it's just, you know, the language there is confusing to me.
Well, and I guess, okay, we can list them, but I mean, normally on this here is listed as on a map.
You
These
could list them,
communities
or
are
you could,
listed.
or you could have referred to this, because this would be part of the ordinance.
Right, well, the map is the ordinance.
Okay, so as long as everybody's comfortable, but, you know, realizing that these communities, they have no boundaries, is that correct? There's
The
no
overlay
definition.
map, the overlay map put the boundary unless.
No, actually, Bill, I now see Councilman Joseph's point. If you look in the very first part of that sentence, it is a long one, but it says areas of Ascension Parish and Weed overlay map. By saying that, it's referring to that document that we had up on our screen a minute ago. That would show the blue hatched areas, and that would be the various communities, correct me? if I'm
Correct.
wrong, OJ, that you're referring to,
That's correct.
whether it be Modest, Avant, whatever.
That's what that's what the blue areas are doing.
Does that help,
identifying
maybe?
those communities.
Okay, all right. Now, then it says, and at the end of the small b under 5, it says must be maintained at a minimum of twice per year. Now, that's the owner, you're telling the owner that, but you were telling me that the most the parish could cut it was twice a year.
That's it,
And that's
That's right.
existing language, right, fellas?
right.
I don't know. Is
Yes.
that, I don't have a.
Exactly.
I
The
don't have
parish
that
owner
in here.
responsible to cut it for twice a year. That's it. If
That's
you
not-
get a report, if somebody reported,
That's not a change, let's be clear, that's already in the law.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, only the underlying stuff is the change in that.
well, I don't know, maybe you guys have
Now, look,
something different than I do.
Bill, I
don't
think if you
have
look
what
at,
the existing
no, if you
law-
look at revise, under revise item B, if you look where it says, or within a designated grass and weed overlay zone, that's the only part of the ordinance that would be changed, that's underlined there, and that would then refer back to the map.
right.
But what I'm wondering is does it say that where does it say that we will cut it only twice per year?
That isn't, if you want, that's what, you must be maintained basic for us, and that's the only time we're gonna cut it, twice a year. That's just the way the language was, and unless you wanna change the language.
No,
to
I
specific
just
say-
don't, should it be written in here, or is it written somewhere?
Maintain, basically the property, if someone
problem?
reported, we're being responsible for the maintain it, not being if somebody, requested, because they're in
I
violation of it.
got all that, but I don't see anything in here that says that the most we'll cut it is twice a year.
Okay, we can add that.
I mean,
I-
it basically
it's-
says at a minimum of twice per year, so not a maximum, I mean, to a certain.
Well, that's the distinction is, this is the landowner has to cut it a minimum of twice per year. And what I understand from Oliver is that the parish will cut it a maximum of twice per year.
No, it's the overlay code, right.
Well, but I mean, it's not the whole.
Because
Well,
the
we're
other
not gonna
code, no.
adopt it tonight, but maybe
No.
if you will, just
We can add that
look
in
at
there. You
that.
wanna say maximum?
I mean, I think
All right.
that needs to be spelled out
Parish,
that we're
parish,
not gonna,
parish government,
if it's not already in there, okay.
We'll do it for a maximum of twice a year.
Well, this is, but the minimum twice per year is that the landowner.
Is the landowner, the maximum twice a year is the parish.
But this
Correct.
Overlay is where you change it.
I think that's what he's talking about.
I'm not sure, pardon me, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if it's identified somewhere else either in the ordinance. This
Yeah.
is not the entire ordinance, this is just what's being revised
Right.
with the overlay.
No, I understand, and that's what I'm saying, if it's
Right.
not in
Maybe
there,
some
then,
clarification.
yeah.
and I'll double check on that. I'll double check.
Yeah,
on
it might
But
be
I-
under C or something else. We just don't have the full ordinance to know that.
And I guess another question I have in, the revised to read, this is 11-101B. It says the parish president shall have the authority to have such weeds grant. So is that, is the parish president gonna have to sign, these requests to get this cut?
The administration, I mean,
That's the way it's always been.
right.
It doesn't say or his designate.
Well, we can look at that too. I mean, at the time, like I said, Bill, this ain't been here, this been
No,
going
I
on.
understand.
You done been here about 3 or 4 times, didn't it?
Well, I see it's got Parish President Tommy Martinez on the letterhead.
Well,
Well, I think in order to save time with one deferral, so we don't get into a third one like with burn ordinance, maybe OJ, the next time we'll see a sentence in there with an underline under it, parish president or
Or
his
administrator.
designate.
Right.
Or something like that. Anything else, Mr. Dawson?
And, I guess, and I understand what you're saying, but it says, just so everybody realize this, at the last paragraph, the complainant must live directly adjacent to or in the immediate vicinity of, so
yeah, they don't.
can't have somebody just ride around and
Uh-uh.
say, okay.
It's
And
a-
they the one that must make the submittal.
Fill out the complaint form.
And that's important language because it's a stakeholder situation.
Okay.
person that's
I
affected.
just wanted to, yeah.
Mr. Lawler.
It's one thing sitting next to the left of Councilman Dawson is he gets all my questions before I can get to them. So it works out well.
Aw. Push, yeah, baby.
Well, we can trade next time.
You,
I have
okay.
nothing.
Okay, so I think
Stole all
we've
his
exhausted
thunder.
discussion. We
Yeah.
have, it's been moved and seconded that we defer this for 30 days without reviewing all of the reasons why, for every reason that Councilman Dawson has suggested and Councilman Oliver Joseph has agreed with. It will be in our packet next time, and then we'll pick the discussion up from there and hopefully get to a vote of recommendation or not. So, any objections?
Nope.
Hearing none, a motion to defer carries. Our last item this afternoon before we adjourn is number 9, council travel reimbursement. This was also a request made by Councilman Joseph. OJ?
Yeah, thanks again, Mr. Chairman. Our travel ordinance has always been on receipt reimbursement, and our per diem has always been on that basis right there, and the state statute and a lot of other ordinance. Basically, what we're requesting is to have per diem reimbursement based on per diem while we're going and to get advanced pay per diem. And our ordinance basis say if we're in state, we get $60 per day, and out of state, we'll get $80 a day. And also the only thing we're changing for advanced pay, and those advanced pay is only the days that you are in or the area you're basically at travel at. Any question?
Yeah, I have questions, but we're going to honor Mr. Dawson first. Go ahead.
I don't have to go first, but help me out, Oliver. Is this what we have in front of us? Is this the proposed ordinance? Is this, there are no changes highlighted? How is it different from the existing ordinance? Are these all additions or?
Well, it's just a more clear language than the other document. If you look on the back page, our old document, it had, you know, just for instance, we would have $75, and it had to be based on the per diem.
So this is a complete replacement
Complete
for
replacement.
our existing.
Right.
I think Councilman Dawson, a hint is in the first paragraph, which will have to be straightened up. It says St. Martin Parish. That's not us.
I came from there, but
Oh, did you?
no,
Let-
I
let's not
recently
digress.
traveled there. But
Okay.
I guess the other thing that,
That would certainly have to be fixed at a minimum.
yeah, I would, you know, not having traveled a lot, but just a couple of times, and I would like to have a little more time to compare this to, you know, some different travel type reimbursement policies. Since we're looking at this only, you know, mostly, let's say this, mostly addresses meals. So, you know, and we had some incidents in the travel area where transportation, you know, we couldn't share a taxi, for example, because, you know, only one person could charge that to their expense. So I think I would like to see a little bit more work before we propose this to the council.
Oh, that's fine, Bill. I'm pretty sure Jessica right there, we have pulled up a lot of documents from a lot of other parish. We also pulled up the state, we also pulled up the federal government one. And based on transportation, transportation is a more individual in how you share rides, okay? If you go to the airport and you catch a ride with me, only one of us can get mileage. I mean, in all statutes we looked at.
Well, that's fine, but you know, what happened was in our case, there were 4 of us in a cab, and we had the $75 limit, and we could only, so it ate up one person's entire allowance for the whole day, and nobody else could, you know, even though he was transporting 3 other members.
And Bill, and that's the difference with this travel claim right here, is segregate that $75 strictly what it's for, or the rates is strictly for meals. Everything else, you must have a receipt, and that's what you would get your reimbursement back on. If you catch a taxi
But
and
does-
4 y'all ride in it, you list all 4 people, and if it's $75, you get that reimbursement back of $75, not the other 3 people.
But does the St. Martin ordinance that we're modeling off of here, OJ, does it say that specifically, that if you have receipts for things beyond the meal per diem?
When you look
Yes.
at
That's
the
all in there?
bottom, I mean,
Because I don't see,
Section 2.
you know, like this specific address in our current ordinance, it's a little more detailed for things like, I'm looking at things like tips and
correct.
things of that nature.
It'd say also airfare and all that.
The last paragraph in section 2. Moreover, the cost of public ground transportation shall be reimbursed, including but not limited to charges for buses, subways, airport limousines, and taxi services.
You found it faster than me. Yeah.
What I would like to see added, just so there's no confusion, because a lot of people try to separate a Uber or a Lyft from taxi services, is that we include that also.
We put ride sharing in.
Ride sharing in there specifically.
Okay,
Just so it would be, ride sharing and taxi services.
okay, so, all right, but only,
Councilman Lawler, you saying when it says moreover reasonable storage, parking fees, ferry fees, road bridge tolls shall be subject to reimbursement, I guess it's implied with receipt.
right, with receipt.
With receipt.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
With
the
receipt.
part I'm
And
saying,
that,
claims, receipts
and
of the
to
total.
OJ's point, that would mean irregardless of whether you're over your per diem or not for the meal portions,
Right,
which you now are suggesting, and for the record, $60 in-state, and I heard $80 out-of-state. And currently
Which you don't
we're at-
need
we're at
receipts for.
We're
You
at
don't need-
75
right.
overall right now.
Huh?
We're at 75 right
Right,
now.
we're at
Overall.
75 right now.
I would also like for us to look at maybe putting a CPI adjustment in there. Let me see if you're gonna make this have any legs.
I've got an idea. I think it looks like two of my colleagues are chomping at the bit for a subcommittee assignment.
Aaron?
And so, I think that, my guess would be that since,
It says Bill so interested.
and this may not be fair.
I mean,
I-
Doc,
I- No, I know OJ's not the only one complaining about this. I feel strongly about it myself, and I haven't said anything yet, but one of the things that bothers me when we travel is we got a situation where there may be 6 or 8 or more of us going, and we're at a lunch or dinner or something. And then the waitress comes up, and will not give individual checks. That was what happened in NACO this year, and it started, I think, some of this discussion. So we're all in that boat together. And so I'm all for this idea about not having receipts and just, having a per diem. And so that the public don't think there's any hanky-panky going on there, I can tell you this. I've traveled with the state regulations, which are much tighter than anything I've seen in any parish. It was in our packet last time. And you never travel that you come back where more money came out of your pocket than what the government agency reimburses you for. I'm gonna repeat that. It's always a loss, okay? But we don't, for the traveler.
Yes.
But let me say it that way. For the traveler, okay? In other words, it may be a several $100 trip, but several $100 also may not be covered at all. It's out of your pocket. And that's what public servants do, and that's okay. But I don't like this idea of having to have a receipt, because a lot of times, too, you don't even think of it, and you get out the taxi cab and whoop, you don't have a receipt. Well, now you just might have spent $25 or something with no one else in the thing to get from a government building or not, or from a meeting site, from your hotel site, because the best reservations that can be made are within so much distance of really where you're meeting versus where you're having a lodging. And you just SOL for that amount of money. So I like the idea, and I encourage my colleagues to do it, but I think it does need more study, so I'm going to agree more with Bill there, and therefore appoint a little subcommittee here again. And this time, maybe OJ and Bill, if you don't mind, get together. I think Bill's idea, too, of maybe working off the existing ordinance, unless y'all can both agree to just throw the whole thing out and start over, we can do that, but be sure all these little fine points are covered. In terms of receipt, the correct amounts, who controls the horizontal and the vertical relative to having administrative approval. The issue, I think, that also that OJ is bringing up about cash advances to travel. And that might sound trivial. In my mind, it's not. If you're going on an out-of-state trip and it's far enough away, you might have significant out-of-pocket expenses and be a while before you can, get that money back, but yet you still have bills to pay. So, is that okay, fellas? Would you two guys accept an assignment, and then we'll go back with a deferral motion?
Yes.
Is that okay with you?
I'm fine with
You
that.
guys work together and bring it back to the committee. So, I'll entertain a motion for deferral for not 30
Yep.
days to the next strategic planning committee meeting
Sound good?
by Mr. Joseph.
Second.
Second by Councilman Dawson. Any further discussion? Any objection? Hearing nothing, that motion carries. Gentlemen, item number 10 is, need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
It's been moved to adjourn by Councilman Benny Johnson,
Second.
second by Councilman Dawson. We are adjourned.